This is the Crush Crowdfunding Podcast, the #1 place for people who want to launch on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. My name is Nalin, and I invite you to join me for tips, hacks, and insights to get you launched and fully funded. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Crush Crowdfunding Podcast. I'm recording on a beautiful Seattle day, and I'm so grateful to be here to talk to you all about crowdfunding. Every time I talk to another entrepreneur and I talk to someone who has a dream and an idea about crowdfunding, I am just floored just by the passion, the motivation, and the drive people have to really extract their idea from their head, the one that they've been thinking about for months and the one they've been kind of toying with for years and kind of working on for years and actually putting it to life. Like, there's so much bravery and so much passion, dedication, and just so much fuel behind putting an idea to life. And I am just absolutely floored by that passion. So thank you so much for making what I do just one of the best things in the world, because I get to work with people like you, whoever you are, who's listening right now. I get to work with people like you who are so passionate and so ready to get your idea out in the world that I can't help but just be psyched every time I wake up and get out of bed just to do this and just to help people launch their dreams and launch their ideas. So thank you. And I really applaud you for doing what you do, and keep going. Don't give up. And, let's get into it. As a crowdfunding consultant, I talk to a lot of people about their campaigns, about their projects, about their products, about their progress, about what they've been doing, what they, want to do, and where they should be going for their crowdfunding campaign. One of the key things that has really, really stood out to me in these recent few weeks, the idea of the audience, the idea of who an audience is for a crowdfunding campaign. Okay, so people talk a lot about finding an audience for a launch, right? People like myself included say audience, find an audience, build an audience, get an audience. Other crowdfunding consultants, agencies, experts, courses, everyone talks about an audience. Even like books that you read about crowdfunding talk a lot about finding an audience for launch. Recently found that this step is often really overlooked or misunderstood by people. Let me tell you a little story. So as a product marketing manager in my previous life, I actually worked at a tech startup in the San Francisco Bay Area where I launched new hardware products to the market and pretty much figure out how this can kind of fit into the market, who would actually like the product, and so on and so forth. So as kind of a background, the company that I worked at launches products and works with products and builds products and makes products for cars. It's all these aftermarket car solutions. So for example, if your car doesn't have a backup camera, right? And you really want to have a backup camera for your car, you would install this like little camera on the back of your license plate in the back of your car, and it'll sync up with your phone through some Bluetooth, and you'll essentially have a backup camera without having to pay thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars for a new car, or pay thousands of dollars in an automobile shop. So that's one of the many types of products that I was working with in this particular company. And as you can see, this type of product only is probably relevant to a certain type of people, right? They're not going to be relevant to people who have a new car with a backup camera already. It's not going to be relevant for people who are so used to driving without a backup camera that they don't need it. The product is only going to be relevant to people in a certain generation with certain needs, certain likes that want a backup camera, right, for their car, although they don't have it for their car and they don't want to, buy a completely new car. So this is just one example of various products that I was working with. So as a product marketing manager, I talked to my product team a lot about what we call product market fit. What this essentially means is finding the right people who will love your product. And this really applies to every single crowdfunding campaign, every campaign on Kickstarter, every campaign on Indiegogo. It really applies because you really need to find that product market fit. Where does your product, the thing that you're creating, the project that you're working with, the idea that you have in your head, where does this fit with the market, right? Who are the people who actually like this product that you're working on? So when you go back to that backup camera aftermarket installation example that I was talking about. Again, not everyone will love that backup camera and the way that it's made, right? Not everyone will love it. But my job as a product marketing manager was to really figure out who it is that needs this product, who it is that will love this product, who it is that really will pay money for this particular product, right? And that's the same thing that you have to do for your campaign too. Every time you want to launch anything to the market, there are a few things that you really must keep in mind. One, not everyone will love your product, really. Like, not everyone will love your product. You cannot please everyone. And two, there's a certain group in the population who will be absolute fans for your project, for your idea. So those are the two main things to keep in mind. Not everyone will love your product, one. And two, there are certain people who will absolutely love it. When you think about this, let's just kind of make this more tangible too, right? Take some time to think about your favorite movie or your favorite book, right? Just kind of visualize that, kind of the feeling you have when you watch the movie, the feeling you have when you read the book, whatever your absolute favorite thing is. Maybe it's you absolutely love penguins as an animal, right? Like, whatever it is that you absolutely love, just think about that for a second. The crazy thing here is that what you absolutely love, someone else might absolutely hate, right? You might love the book 100 Years of Solitude, and someone else absolutely hates 100 Years of Solitude. You might love Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol, but someone else out there might absolutely hate that movie, right? So those are kind of the two things you have to keep in mind before we kind of dig deeper into this idea of an audience, right? One, not everyone will love your product because everything out there has lovers and haters. And two, there's a certain group in the population who will be absolute fans. So your job as the person with idea, as the person who's trying to launch this product, is to really hone in on who are these people. What kind of characteristics do they have? What kind of likes and dislikes do they have? What kind of things do they like to do on the weekends? What kind of things do they like to read? Who are these people who are going to love your product, right? So who you need to market to depends on what your product is, first and foremost, and who will enjoy it enough to buy it. Those two things can be very, very different for each product. So knowing who will like your product and who will like it enough to enjoy it really determines who your audience will be. So I know this might be really kind of a crazy example, but imagine if you're launching a new cooking pan versus if you're launching something like a smart trash can, right? Cooking pan versus a smart trash can. As you can imagine, the audience for these two projects will be very different and have really far-reaching repercussions for your marketing, because people who are always obsessed with cooking and cookware and making new things in the kitchen and like trying new recipes, they might not even care if their trash can is smart or not. They might not even care if they have a legit like trash can. They might not even want to pay for something like this, and vice versa, right? And so this is kind of the first key step when you think about your audience. You really need to know what kind of products they like, right? If your product, what you're working on, what you're creating is a product that they would like, and two, is this something that they will enjoy? They will enjoy enough to even buy it, right? And so when it comes to your audience, that is kind of the first place where you get started. This might still be a little bit abstract to a few people, so let's talk a little more in detail about this. So when it comes to a product that you're creating for crowdfunding, anything that's in your head, anything that you're working on, the prototypes that you're creating, if you're not sure who your audience is, think back to just the creation and the idea and the inception of the idea and the where and when you created this product and why this product came to your head and why it came to your head, right? This is going to be kind of the really key factor of unlocking who your audience is, because product and ideas arise because they solve problems. They are solutions to different problems that you encounter. What you encounter, what your friends encounter, what your family encounters, what your acquaintances encounter, right? And so think back to when you had the idea for this product. Think back to when you had the idea of launching something and the passion that you had to get this project out there. Why? Why did this idea happen? Why did this idea pop up into your head? Why did this idea make you so driven to launch something to the market? Because that is the key to finding your audience. Because when you know the why, you know what problem it solves and for whom it solves the problem for. So let's take an example. I talk about this example a lot, but it's really worth talking about and really worth repeating because it's such a key example of how solving for a need can give you such a core audience. So for example, the potato peeler, right? The potato peeler used to be this really hard, thin metallic thing. When you gripped onto it and you squeezed it with your hand and you're peeling the potato, the metal would kind of really cut into your hands as you're trying to peel these potatoes. This person was, using the potato peeler, and he saw his wife using the potato peeler and realized that, hey, this potato peeler is really just not effective at all. Not only that, but his wife also had arthritis and so had a really hard time grabbing the potato peeler, this like thin metal thing in her hand and using it to peel. So he thought, wait, why not make something that's more easy to grasp? So he worked with Arthritis Society and came up with the modern day potato peeler, which has a handle that is really easy for someone to grab hold of and use to peel a potato. Right. And so again, this guy just went out and was like, hey, this product doesn't work right now. This product isn't great right now. And I see my wife having this problem because she couldn't grab this potato peeler and actually use it. And so I'm going to set out and make this product. So the first audience group for this particular product was actually people who had arthritis. It made cooking and it made things in the kitchen so much easier for people with arthritis. And then lo and behold, after years of being in the market, this is actually a product that you can see everywhere now. All potato peelers are pretty much easy to grasp like that. But to go back to where it all started, he created the new potato peeler because of a problem and found an audience, that initial core audience, because he knew what problem he was solving for and who was experiencing those problems. So when it comes to your particular product, when it comes to your particular project, think back to when you had the idea of this particular product and why you wanted to solve for it, because that will tell you kind of who your audience is and who you should be talking to. And knowing your audience really has far-reaching repercussions for your marketing. Let's see how. 1, you'll figure out what your audience needs to hear to convince them to buy. So every single product has a different way of convincing someone to buy. If you're launching a new audio product, people need to see other people who are well respected in the audio industry talking about this. People need to see what the technology in the audio product is that makes it so much more special and so much more unique than everything else on the market. If you're launching a new type of ergonomic mouse, people have to see the problems, the existing type of mouse. I'm talking about a mouse for a computer, by the way. People need to see the type of problems you can get if you use a mouse, one of those non-ergonomic ones. People need to see the problems that it causes in the long run and how an ergonomic mouse will actually combat those problems, right? So knowing the type of product and knowing the type of audience, you'll be able to see and create content and create information that your audience needs to hear to convince them to actually come to your crowdfunding page, your Indiegogo page, your Kickstarter page, and put in money for building up your idea. 2, you'll figure out where your audience is hanging out and where you should be grabbing attention. Let's go back to that original example between a smart trash can and a new type of chef's pan. Right. When you're looking at these two products, clearly the two types of people who want these products are going to be talking and chatting and hanging out in very different places. People who want chef stuff is probably in a chef related forum, a cooking forum, or in a place where they're looking at recipes and they're looking at different influencers who love to cook, for example. That determines where you should be talking and where you should be present and where you should be writing and talking and making connections and grabbing people's attention for your own product. If you're looking at like an audio product, where people talk is going to be very different from where people talk when it comes to people who are interested in chef products, right? So it really, knowing your audience really determines where you kind of put in your efforts and energies. There's no reason to try to secure a promotion or an article or a write-up in a huge tech gadget blog if you're launching a pair of pants, right? It doesn't make any sense because the audience who goes to that tech gadget blog is not going to be looking for your pair of pants. People who are looking for your pair of pants is probably looking at a fashion blog, a fashion magazine, a fashion writer, following a fashion journalist, something like that, right? So knowing your audience really, really determines where you just put an effort for your promotional activities and put an effort to find people that might find other people who might like your product and grab their attention in those places. Another reason an audience is so incredibly important is that you'll be able to pick reviewers and influencers and people who have sway in certain industries depending on who your audience is. So if you're looking to launch something like a drone, right? There's people out there who just review drones and you want to get your drone out to that person and out to that person wherever they are so that they can test it, they can do an unboxing, they can play around with it and fly it and write about it and talk about it on a video, because the people who are watching this particular influencer, the people who are actually reading these articles from this influencer is really influenced by what they have to say and really takes into account their support for a product before they actually buy it. Right. And so just knowing your audience will really help you narrow down the scope of work that you have to do in order to get the word out there about your project. If you're launching a new smart vitamin case, right? You probably don't want to be in an outlet that only talks about mugs. There's no reason to be in a place that only talks about mugs. You want to be in a place that talks about health, nutrition, new technology about health and nutrition, because those are the type of people who will be supporting your particular project. And the last reason why I think it's so important to know your audience is because you'll get to really figure out who will respond positively to your content. Getting a lot of hate for your content, or just even no response at all for your content, can be really, really demoralizing. Imagine if you put something out there and there are no likes, there are no comments, there are no clicks, no one even cares about what you're posting about. That hurts, right? And most likely, it's not that your project isn't good. It's probably because you're trying to grab attention from the wrong people in the wrong places. And it all comes down to an audience. If you find the right people, if you find the right places where they're open to learning about what you're talking about, they're going to cheer you on. They're going to lift you up and they're going to root for your success. So finding an audience is really at the core to most marketing and crowdfunding successes and mishaps. And I really want you to think really deep about who your audience is, right? The most successful products are able to really find their audience and market to them and talk to them and really dig deep into where, what, whys, and hows of their lives so that they can convince them to come back and back this project. At the end of the day, it's incredibly beneficial to know who your audience is before you start marketing. So that wraps up this particular episode of the Crush Crowdfunding podcast, where we talk about audiences. Thank you so much for listening today. And if you enjoyed the content today, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review for the podcast, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's iTunes, whether it's Google, it's Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you're listening. I would really appreciate a review so that other people who are looking for crowdfunding content, looking to share their ideas with the world, looking to launch their ideas to the world, can also find this podcast and learn this about audiences and about their audience too, because it's so incredibly important. Again, thank you for listening. And if I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review for the podcast. Thank you so much for listening and hope you go out and crush it. Thanks for listening to the Crush Crowdfunding podcast at crushcrowdfunding.com. Tune in the same time next week for more ways to crush your launch.